Thank you for joining us. We're in Phoenix, Arizona today at the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians Conference. And I'm joined today by Dr. Jeff Drobot. Dr. Drobot is the medical director for the Calgary Center for Naturopathic Medicine in Canada, and his clinic is the largest of its type in Canada. Dr. Drobot is also the medical advisor for Neera Natural. Dr. J, why don't all medical professionals suggest a detox and cleanse?
I honestly think that they would if they understood the physiology behind it. Health has really evolved in the last, well, even since I've been in medicine for the last 15 years, in the sense that people don't just get a broken leg anymore. People get chronic disease without a cause, and there's no one pill that's going to take that away. And nowadays we have to go with more, not so much disease care, but more health care, which is prevention. And prevention just isn't going to be taught in a medical school because it's kind of esoteric. You're not supposed to get sick, and when you get sick, we're supposed to be able to fix you.
Can you explain how Neera Natural works?
I mean, this has been around for a long time. When I was in medical school, I did the lemonade diet, if we want to call that, with the cayenne pepper, maple syrup, and just water. I did that in my first year for 10 days because I found a book in the library that said I should do it. And it made a lot of sense to me at the time. This, of course, product is a little bit different than just maple syrup because it offers a unique mineral content, but it works by allowing your body to rest, and it provides your body minerals and fuel so that it can do other things that it didn't have time to do. And our basic premise in medicine is to allow things to heal themselves. It's not going to, the Neera Natural Cleanse isn't going to regenerate your liver. It's not going to regenerate your vision. What it's going to do is it's going to allow those pieces of your body not to work so hard. And the primary part of it is anytime you rest your small intestine, which is the primary energy producer in your body, everything will get better. And if we can adhere to that, we aren't disappointed whether it's asthma we're treating or eczema that we're treating. We always get a better clinical result.
There seems to be a lot of other types of detoxes on the market using pills and juices and all sorts of different additives. Why do you think that Neera Natural is better?
Um, there's a lot of different things that you can do for different reasons. And when you're doing a detox, sometimes it's not a wonderful idea to expose your body to a ton of chemicals with provoking agents when you haven't prepared it already. A lot of people say, well, I'm just going to accumulate, or I'm going to be nasty to myself for 360 days, and then for 5 days I'm going to take a bunch of pills and I'm going to reverse this process. And what you do with a bunch of pills, and I certainly use other forms. I use IV therapy. Have done other nutraceuticals to do specific tasks. But when you're doing a general detox, sometimes it's better to get rid of the stuff slowly, enable the organs of your body to have a rest, to basically rebuild and to be able to do their jobs easier. And when we're trying to do a bunch of pills in the kitchen sink that goes into that, oftentimes that gets us into trouble because we force things that shouldn't have been forced in the meantime, and instead of actually allowing the body to do what it's supposed to do.
Okay, thank you. I know that you use Neera Natural in your practice. Why and
It's
how?
I use it for everybody in the sense that humans aren't supposed to be eating and doing stuff every single second of every single day. And a lot of people will want to do something that's quick, that's convenient, that's fast, and that's relatively inexpensive. We've made this big alternative healthcare field seem very cumbersome with pills, potions, and cost, and we kind of have forgotten about the things that have worked for decades. And I recommend it because it's an easy program for people to follow. Once they get through the first day and realize that they're not going to die, it's very easy. It offers ultimate effectiveness. There's not a bunch of confusion that goes into it, and the benefits that I get are outstanding.
Great, thank you. Our claims by colon and other cleanses showing these really ugly bowel movements. Are they true?
You do see really ugly bowel movements. That is true. It's kind of it's a trick in marketing, right? If you can show somebody that something's happening and they can show their friends that something's happening, then something is definitely happening. A lot of those is, and it's good premise. There's a lot of bentonite clays and psylliums and other products out there where, yeah, you'll increase the bulk of the stool, and that does have value in some sorts. But people think that somehow that's a layer of toxicity that wouldn't have happened if they didn't do these wonderful powders. And the trick of it is, when you're doing bulking agents, obviously what happens is what you take in bulks up in your intestinal tract and you see it out. Is that a bunch of toxicity and harmful bacteria, or bowel sludge as they like to call it? No. Does it contain some, extra toxicity? Yeah, probably. But it's not a cause and effect thing.
People ask often whether the Neera Natural Cleanse is going to make them rush to the bathroom. Can you explain why that wouldn't happen?
That's in North America, so we have to differentiate between European philosophy and North American philosophy. We don't think anything is really happening unless it's causing some real effect. And so there's a difference between, I think we have to differentiate between a cleanse, which just means that you take a bunch of laxatives and you sit on the toilet 40 times, and that means you must be getting rid of a bunch of bad stuff, and a program like the Neera Natural, where it's more of a digestive rest, where it allows your body to be able to have space and time and resources to do a lot of stuff that it just didn't have time for. Unfortunately, the detox industry has gone to people need to be able to see something happening to figure that something is happening. We don't understand that most of our detoxification actually goes on at night when we're sleeping, when we're not doing anything. And the reason is because there's not anything else that is competing for that amount of energy and resource to get those processes done. So I'm often asked that question because anytime you say a detox or a cleanse, that's the first thing that comes into somebody's mind is catharsis into the toilet bowl. And I would question whether that's really doing anything besides irritating the most important organ that you're really trying to rest when you're doing a detoxification.
Many people use Neera Natural for weight loss. Have you got any comments on that?
Neera Natural is definitely an effective program to lose weight, but that's probably not its desired intention. The Neera Natural, the diet industry, is designed to have this calorie in versus calorie out attitude, where if we restrict calories and we lose weight, it should stay for some reason for a long period of time. The Neera Natural does is it strengthens the metabolic organs so that when you go back and actually introduce more calorie, you have a better wood-burning stove in there to do the work. So a lot of people do use it as a fast detox program, and I definitely have done that with people, but it's because it allows the body to strengthen up its metabolic organs, which makes calories burn better, even though you're still adding calorie to the situation. And it has a longer lasting effect than just a caloric intake measurement.
So some people say, oh, when you go on a fast, your metabolism slows down and then you're going to gain all the weight back. It doesn't sound like that's actually true.
The Neera Natural is a unique product in the sense that you're still fueling the system. That's why we encourage you to drink as much as possible in the first couple days. On a water fast, what inevitably will happen is your body will say there's not a lot of input coming in, so I'll just turn down the volume of most of my organs, which used to be a good idea in the past, but now with toxicity and all the multi-layers of problems that we have, we found that that's not an effective solution to do anymore. What the Neera Natural does allow you to do is still provide the fueling that you're supposed to have when you're doing some of these metabolic programs and detoxification programs, while not, we'll say, harming or while not hindering the organs of elimination.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. J, I know that you're using Neera Natural for an athletic type program. What is that exactly?
I originally used a Neera Natural. Athletes and the high-end athletes that we end up seeing at our center have a problem with an amino acid called lactic acid. And so in that digestive tract, the trouble is that we're not supposed to be fighting and eating at the same time. We have two nervous systems. One's kind of designed to run away from a lion. One's designed to rest, digest, and repair. And I know that by doing all the functional testing that I have, that athletes spend a lot of time tearing down their digestive tracts with high-end exercise or with hard exercise in order to run their skeletal muscle. And we just have never done the opposite, where we've actually rested our skeletal muscle and allowed this big, smooth muscle in our digestive tract to regenerate. I've simply found the neera natural the most effective, aggressive way to take as much lactic acid out of the body in 5 days as possible, and that always has resulted in better times, faster performance, and increased recovery.
Would you mind explaining what is health?
Health is a word that people have come to generally think about as the absence of disease. The World Health Organization hasn't really changed their definition in over 60 years. But if we look at truly what health is, we learned that it's a much more dynamic process. It's a process that isn't simply the absence of disease, but it's more a state of high vitality, where we have the ability to do the things that we need to do on a day-to-day basis. We get up every morning and feel really well, and we start to understand why we're not feeling so well. So if we use that type of a definition of health, we have to move into a sort of different terminology, which we call homeostasis, which basically means balance. And if we look at but what is homeostasis? Homeostasis is a word that was coined in the 1800s by a physician who basically is known as the doctor of physiology, where it's all about balance. And in order to be healthy, the body has a number of different systems, different mechanisms that facilitates its ability to stay in balance.
Well, Dr. Tom, if that's your definition of health, then what's disease?
So this is where we get into the idea, once again, of going back to the idea of homeostasis. And if health is being in balance, having every aspect of our immune system, our endocrine system, all our other organ systems in balance, then disease simply means we're out of balance. That's definitely what the most common understanding is of what people have when they are sick. But what's an interesting aspect is pathology is a word that has been made up in medicine as a way of being able to discuss terms between physicians and to try and explain to patients when they have a specific condition. So if we use a word like rheumatoid arthritis and you say that to another physician, they understand what it is that you're talking about. We've sort of developed this, and we call that study of disease pathology. But if we really go back to what the definition of health is, what we'll understand is that that's really not what the issue is. The whole reason that somebody develops rheumatoid arthritis or cancer or gets a cold or they have a pneumonia is not because they have a pathology. It's because the body is attempting to recreate a state of balance. I prefer to call that adaptive physiology, because the body never, I believe, never makes a mistake. And it wouldn't specifically try and give us an illness if we were attempting to do something that was good for it, because the body really has one big intention. And the most important thing that it wants to do is it wants to survive. And everything that it does, from breathing to elimination to eating foods and getting hungry, is because we need that to survive. Why do we have reproductive system? Because we need to reproduce the species. And so when I talk with patients about, so what really is going on and what are we really looking at, we have this understanding that their problem is not pathology, but their problem is that their adaptive physiology has moved all their systems out of balance, so their immune system is in imbalance, or their cardiovascular system is in imbalance, or their respiratory system is in imbalance, or whichever system the symptom may be appearing. In fact, I'll often tell a patient that one of the things I don't do is I don't really treat symptoms.
This is probably a simple question to ask, but not to answer. Why do people get ill?
I've asked that question to tens of thousands of patients, and the interesting aspect is many people always come up with the same answers. The most common answer is that, oh, it's because I caught something. There was my child was at daycare and they came home and there were several children who were ill, so there was either there was a virus there, or maybe they had a strep pharyngitis, they had a strep throat. So microbes are felt to be a very common reason that people get sick. Or people will say, well, I know I don't eat well, so if I don't eat well, I'm going to get sick. Some people, I don't exercise enough, that's why I got sick. Some people will say, well, I get sick because of my parents got sick and everybody in my family had a certain type of illness, and that must be why I got sick. So in other words, they're always looking for something external to them. They think it's something else that basically sort of is imposed on them. But what I've come to find is the reality is that those are really not true causes. I would prefer to call those the trigger of why somebody gets sick. Because if we look at what truly is underlying why somebody gets sick, we then go down to what are you doing for yourself on a day-to-day basis. So this is where we start looking at the idea, so are you eating the right diet for you? Are you doing the right type of exercise for you? Do you get enough sleep on a regular basis? Or are you using coffee or some other type of a stimulant to basically increase your energy on a day-to-day basis? And which comes down to we call the sort of violation of natural laws. And the best way to understand natural laws is to, if you have a pet, is just to watch what your pet does. And one of the most common violations of natural laws is that we drink liquids when we're eating food. And I'll guarantee you, if you have a dog or a cat, and if you put the dog dish, the food, beside the water dish, when they eat, they don't take a few bites of the food, stop eating, and then go and take a few drinks, and then they go back to the food, go to the drink. They don't do that. But who does that? Is humans. And we're not supposed to do that. That's a violation of a natural law, because what it does is it dilutes our digestive enzymes. It doesn't allow us to fully be able to digest food, and we get this accumulation of toxicity. And the physiology aspect of why we get sick is because of all these types of behaviors that have facilitated our exposure to chronic exposures to toxins, whether it's in the soil, whether it's in the air, whether it's heavy metals, whether it's in perfume, whether it's in hair products, whether it's on skin products. Unfortunately, in our society, we are exposed on a day-to-day basis to tens of thousands of different types of chemicals. And when we have evolved through evolution, our bodies were never really designed to be able to eliminate those. And when the body takes these in and it says, what's that? I don't know what that is. I don't know how to get rid of it. So I better put it somewhere. So what it does, it starts storing it. And it stores it in the fat tissue as a common place, which has a lower place of metabolism. And in addition to that, it stores it in a place that we call the extracellular matrix, which is the space that is between all our cells. And we have about 10 to the 13 cells in our body. And between these cells, we have all this connective tissue. We have a lot of water. In fact, adults generally, as a child, we're about 75% water. As an adult, as we age, we're about 65% water, and middle age is somewhere in between. So this space, this extracellular space, starts to get clogged with toxins, and as well as the fat that starts to get clogged with toxins. So if we're ever going to attempt to get the body back to homeostasis, in addition to finding the right diet, getting the right sleep, doing the right exercise, we absolutely have to get rid of this toxicity.
What is a toxin and how do you get rid of them?
Absolutely one of the most critical aspects of being able to restore people to health. A toxin is simply a substance, if we look in the dictionary, that is foreign to the body on many different levels. And many people think, as I've mentioned, it's a pesticide or it's a heavy metal or it's an insecticide. So then the question is, well, how do we get rid of them? So in order to facilitate that, we need to understand a couple of different words that you may be familiar with. One is the idea of detoxification. Another word is depuration, and another word is drainage. And people who are familiar with alternative medicine and integrative medicine will have perhaps heard those words. And detoxification, by definition, simply means to take a toxic substance and to make it less toxic. And in our body, the organ that facilitates that is our liver. The liver has many physiologic processes, and it will take a substance that's foreign to it. It'll put it through a number of different enzymatic processes. It'll make it water soluble so that it then can be removed by the kidney during urination. But some toxins are not water soluble, so we cannot eliminate it that way. So we'll have to eliminate those through the gastrointestinal system. And so it'll come out in our stool and our in regular daily bowel movements. So detoxification is considered to be the support of the liver, the support of what we call the emunctories, which are the elimination organs, which in addition to the kidney and the liver also include our skin. So sweat is a natural way that we eliminate toxins. But even equally as important is our breathing.
So Dr. Tom, what can we do to detoxify, cleanse? I mean, how can that be accomplished?
There's many faddish ways. There's many ways that people have tried to do cleansing. Probably the oldest form of cleansing has been fasting. It's talked about in the Bible and was done by the ancient Greeks and the Egyptians, where they would was recommended that you take a day of not eating, so you fast for a day. And there's been many different types of promotions of diets and water cleanses and herbal cleanses and a whole variety of things. And while all of them have some importance, the master cleanse, which was evolved in the 1970s, basically has shown and proven to be, done by thousands of patients, a really sufficient, adequate, very efficient way of facilitating the body, the cleansing, to clear the extracellular matrix, to clean the intracellular space. This is an extremely important aspect that is essential for virtually all patients, almost without exception. We know that anybody who is having any type of chronic illness would benefit from doing a cleanse. And so one of the products that has definitely proven to the test of time is the neera cleanse, using a combination of Canadian maple syrup and palm syrup from Southeast Asia. And it is basically, it's an expansion of the initial presentation of the master cleanse with some improvements.